have Renita Azal, Dante Bacha, and Maria Cruz, and they will let you know. Some of them wear one hat and some of them wear multiple hats in terms of being former students of the program or parents. So if you could introduce yourselves.
My name is Renita Rizal. I am a graduate of Project Concern. I started in 3rd grade and was fortunate to be assigned to the West Hartford District and graduated from Connor in '83. And I've been also blessed to have been working for Open Choice for the past, going on 15 years, assisting parents and students, hopefully to have the same great experience that I've had.
Morning, my name is Dante Pache. I am a Project Concern graduate from Farmington. My kids are all graduating from Glastonbury. And I had a lot of things that I did, so maybe this for later.
Hi, my name is Maria Cruz. My son is currently, both my sons are currently in the West Hartford District, and I had a daughter who also went into the Newington District. It was at a time that it was hard to get students into one district. And I currently work for the City of Hartford.
So if you can recall, last time we met, you did a brainstorm toward the end of the day, and we created some questions that you had. But that being said, you also have all of today's experiences, and maybe you have even more questions that you didn't have last time. So I'm going to put it out to you. I have a list of questions from last time and from people who attended last year as well. Or would you rather just open it up because you have stuff on your mind you'd like to ask?
If you want to read them.
What's your preference?
Start with our questions, maybe.
With what you posed last time? Okay, so and you have your mics, so I don't think you realize that you're being filmed, but you are being, the three of you anyway are being filmed.
Okay, I'm ready.
Good hair. So among the questions you asked last time was, do you feel that all of your travel and logistical challenges were worth it for going to the school and leaving your own community? So was it worth it?
Absolutely. But sometimes they ask the question for me when they're interviewing alumni, would you put your kids in the program? And I say no. Because I say that I believe the experience allowed me the opportunity to see both worlds and to make choices so that my children don't have to go through the same struggle. But if Hartford was the only place that I could live, absolutely I would put them in the program. But my choice would be to live in a suburban community where they can go to a quality school and not have to wake up so early and ride the long buses.
For me, yes. And keeping them out of the schools of Hartford. Because I went with my wife back there, Rosalind, to a community event. A community event where they had, I believe it was the Board of Ed and some politicians from Hartford trying to tell us not to leave Hartford, not to put our kids in the choice program. They were there against this. So I stood up and I said, well, how are you going to sell me to stay in Hartford? Because I've been in the schools in Hartford. And all they think about here is throwing money at it instead of finding what the problem is, which is a multi-layered thing, parents, education. So when my wife, we had our firstborn, I said, he's going to the choice program. But I didn't know it was called choice program. It was called Project Concern. So she was like, I don't know what that is. So we put him in the choice program. And by that time, when you said that it was difficult to put siblings behind each other, I was blessed in that all my kids are graduating from the Glastonbury school system since pre-K or daycare. Yeah, daycare. Yeah, so it was worth it.
So for me, it's a catch-22. I had some really great experiences and some really not so great experiences. I mean, busing is really difficult. Our children are many times not getting to school on time. It's a problem, and many times I have to bring it up, not the district themselves or whatnot. I'm blessed in that the elementary school teacher and my principal actually really is avid about that. So there's a lot of logistical, a lot of waking up early, a lot of like, a lot of us are single parents and have to sit there waiting at a bus that's 20, 30 minutes late that we don't even get a notification, or before and after. And there's been times that my high schooler has had to like freeze outside waiting for a bus. But I wouldn't change it because the catch of this is that it also taught and there's been a lot of diversity issues and yada, yada. But I wouldn't change it because it taught my son resiliency. And it strengthened him and made him realize what he wants for his future of his children and what the dynamics to try to get him to work harder so that he doesn't have to bus his children in or do any of this stuff.
Thank you. So another question asked last time is, what are things that were really annoying to you that teachers did, either to you as students or to your children, they might have been well-meaning, but they were annoying?
For me, it's always Black History Month, and feeling like when they start talking about the slavery piece in Africa, that they're looking at you, expecting you to be the expert. And I'm like, what are you looking for me for? I'm not African. And as a family liaison supporting students, they have the same frustrations with getting to that part of the history and just feeling like everyone's focused on them because they are Black. Outside of that, I think that's probably been one of the most negative aspects of that.
Wow. On my end is being Latino, surprise. Just because I was Latino, they put me in the reading program. And I didn't know why until later on. Because they said I didn't speak English very well. I know I have an accent, but damn. That was the worst part of it. Because I didn't know why I was in the reading program.
So for my son, I feel that it's because he's darker skinned. He was always alienated, as well as the fact that he's from Hartford. I don't like when teachers identify them specifically, especially in front of their peers, as CREC students. I think that they're West Hartford students. I think that they're Newington students. I don't think that they need to be isolated until the CREC bus. It just adds to another layer of, it's already enough that when you talk about intersectionality, when you talk about he's a person of color, he's Latino, he has to explain all that is, and then add Hartford to the dynamics. He's already discriminated on. He's already, especially by his peers, he's seen as the other. And you add that extra layer, and it doesn't make it easier for him. A lot of the things that have been said to him have been said through the effects that he is from Hartford and he is a person of color. It's always been an issue of diversity. It's always been an issue of him feeling alienated from the rest of them. It's them against us. It's CREC against them.
So, as you well know, the lottery is about to happen and families are soon going to be going to a new district. What is it that would have benefited you that could be done early on to make your child or yourself as a student feel more welcome?
In the school?
That the district could do?
I guess I'm thinking of when I first arrived, but I don't know how that would translate. Knowing that there may not be other Black students in your classroom might be a help, and I think maybe the program, that could be a responsibility of the program, because the school split in West Hartford. They ended up closing it and then dispersed all of us, and it seemed like I was like the only one going to Duffy at the time. Fortunately, I was pleasantly surprised that there were other Black students there. But I remember crying for the longest time, saying, "Mom, can you get me to go where the other kids are going?" Which I think was more so Brayburn, and cried. But then I ended up being happy at Duffy. So probably sharing the dynamics, and then I got in trouble a couple of times because the other Black student was doing so much talking, and I don't know how we would prepare students for that, but sometimes they camaraderie too much, where then I got in trouble for them talking to me and just being so friendly in the classroom. But for me, that was one of the most difficult transitions, and then crying because now I have to stay after school because of something she did and my parents having to come. which made me hate the teacher. But later, I kind of got over that. But that was difficult for me, just with the dynamics of the other black students, and then in the classroom, and how to navigate that.
As a student of Project Concern, they didn't do anything. There was no integration, no welcome, nothing.
Oh, back then it was just, you
You
get
just
off
showed
the bus
up.
the first day?
You
and-
showed up and went to classroom, got your stuff. They treated us like any other student, which I guess is a good thing. But I had to take the city bus to Farmington. So that's the E-bus, if Hartford people remember that number, or letter. And that was an hour drive to get there half an hour early, to wait. And I was a kid, so I was resilient. I didn't care. So there was no welcoming, I guess. But Button Ball in Glastonbury, the best thing that they ever did is we adopted a family. Or a family adopted us. And my wife is still stamping with that lady, so it kind of cost me some money.
But did you have a paraprofessional on your bus? No.
No paraprofessional. No, because it was a city bus.
Oh, that's right.
We didn't have a school bus.
When you say the family adopted you, what did that relationship entail?
We went to a gathering in the school, and one of the teachers, I don't remember well, but we were assigned a family, and we ended up connecting with them so much that we still to this day talk to them.
We used to call
So they adopted us that way, not through the easier way that some of the students get adopted by being in sports.
Can I jump in on that, Brad?
Yeah, please.
In our experience, I'm in the Portland school system, and we've been in our program for at least 6 years. We do have a number of students who started in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 2nd grade, and so they have found friends, and very good friends. And so when we have a concert at 7 o'clock at night, a student from Hartford may go home with a student from Portland to stay at that home, and it's very, very positive. So what I guess would like to glean from this would be the best way for us to facilitate that process in a meaningful manner so that it can foster that relationship. Because when those relationships exist, and we have them for a good number of students in our school, it's outstanding. It's a great situation. And as you shared, those families are communicative.
I had a family also. I participated in Girl Scouts in elementary school, and fortunately 2 of my friends who were also in Girl Scouts, their mother was the leader. So I could go over their house afterward, and then my mother would pick me up from there. I always used to tell the families that if you naturally see your child gravitating to the student and have friends there, try to get to know their parents. So I would say for a staff member, if you see that a child has a natural friend, try to create a way for those families to get together, because the host family program, we used to call them host family, lasts longer, is more successful when the kids get along. You know, as opposed to matching. Fortunately for Dante, they got along, but we've seen some that you match them and they just don't mesh,
Right.
and then it doesn't last. So that would be a great way for the schools to intervene.
So last year, for those of y'all that were here, I had really bad things, not bad things, but very constructive criticism for West Hartford. And I can actually report out that they've done drastic 360. They've done, so some of the initiatives that they started was, they actually got me to join the EDC, which is the Equity Diversity Council, which is part of the Board of Ed. They actually have a council that's dedicated to equity, diversity, and inclusion. They have subcommittees, and one of the subcommittees is specifically for open choice, figuring out what the dynamics, because every town's dynamic is going to be different. West Hartford has a different dynamic, obviously, than a Portland, than Manchester, and then also branching it with the family engagement. It's part of a family engagement thing. They sort of collab with that. But then they also did an extra subcommittee of just CREC parents coming in and talking, which I helped, get some family members coming in and talking about the issues, because as I reported last year, West Hartford, although being one of the longest standing districts, the first one, they were horrible. They were like so behind as far as like inclusion and diversity and making their students feel included into the West Hartford curriculum and West Hartford program and the West Hartford community. So they actually have a subcommittee of us parents that talk about issues. And through that, we had a welcome night with just us parents to get to know each other, because that was one problem, that us within ourselves, we don't really know each other. We don't. The second part is that at the end of the end, in like 2 weeks, we're gonna host a get-together at the ice skating rink in West Hartford that's going to bring in CREC students, but also the community. It's going to be a free event for us to get together with the community, you know, our students in the community and their parents, and be able to like more co-facilitate and talk. The thing that I want to really warn the districts about is that this whole idea about buddy systems and all that. The problem with that was Hartford was doing that with my younger son, Marcos, for what they call play dates. The problem with that is that if parents are not willing to have their children then go out to the parents' house, that's kind of not fair. You're just automatically, this is the whole Hartford and suburbia division, is that your house is good enough for my child, but my house is not good enough for your child. And what I like to remind the West Hartford parents is that we as parents are not your average lackadaisical parents that are just gonna let our kids just go to your house because we don't, the stereotype is we don't care about our children and we just want a place to house them. No, just like you wanna see I wanna see your house, you wanna see my house, I wanna see your house. And I want to make sure that my child is. So there, with the buddying system, there is that problem. You can't have it just one way. You have to have it the other way. You have to have my child know that his house and his friends can come also to our house. So now the other thing that I want to say is it's not just a school thing. I know that y'all, as much as y'all, you're all here, and so you want to make a difference, and I appreciate that. It's a community thing. So I also got involved in what's called Great by 8. It's an organization by the Bridge Family Center in West Hartford that actually is working within the community. So it's not just a school thing. School is from 9 to 5. What happens from 5 to 8? What happens other than school activities? What happens to our children that don't get to see their classmates right after school and throw footballs with them? So it has to be a community effort as well, because it can't end at 5 o'clock. And so that's what I got involved with Great by 8, and they're actually educating the community about why it's important to help our children and how to help our children become a part of the community, be involved in football, be involved, in sports, in extracurricular activities, in parades. West Hartford actually sends out newsletters to all parents and been proactive at letting us know when there's a Hello West Hartford. Just to let us know about the actual community activities that are going out outside of the school, so that the kids are involved.
Girl Scouts.
So Maria, you started touching upon what this next question is about, which is, what are your suggestions for staff on acknowledging your home district while supporting your connection to the receiving school district? Doesn't sound like there's a lot of overlap there.
No, I mean, a lot of the times, you have two sides to it. You have some teachers who are afraid of bringing it up because they're afraid to offend us. And you have the other side that bring it up, but they bring it up too, and it feels like they can care less if they offend us. So it's like a catch-22. Like, what do you do? Well, first of all, you do acknowledge that we are different. We are different. We have different dynamics. But you make it into a learning experience, and you make it towards to help us, rather than to feel like it hinders us, rather than to feel like you're looking down on us. We are different. We look different. Acknowledging that, because we do need that. We do need to know that when we walk into these halls, the students are going to be different from us. Just our buses are different. The whole dynamics are different. But you also need to understand that you need to help us connect our community and help us figure out how to connect our community. Well, not us, but the children. I mean, I facilitate really well with my child, but not every parent is like me. And allowing to teach your child how to teach other people, and I hate to say, like, Hello West Hartford. Hello West Hartford has actual tables where families can come and host their where they're from, or like they're open to ideas of like this educational component of it. Like, okay, so you're from Ghana. What does Ghana, have? What is their food like? What is like making, not tokenism, not making the child feel like I have to speak for the group, but more of an educational component and helping them understand that it's okay to be from Hartford. It really is. But you're also from West Hartford. You're also from Manchester. You're also from, and how does that look?
It's funny that you said that because in Glastonbury, they're from Hartford. Most of the people in Glastonbury were from Hartford. They moved into Glastonbury. The reason I know that is because I became their first Cub Master, Latino Cub Master. I had those children from 1st grade to 5th grade. So, tigers, wolves, weebles. I did it for 5 years. And the reason that I realized that these people forgot where they came from is when I call the kids up. My last name is spelled P-A-C-E. But if everybody who's Italian knows it's Pace. So when I call these kids up and I call them by their name, they would just sit there like, is he calling me? Then you see the grandparent in the back, it's you, you fool, like, it's you, that's your last name. And then because they forgot that we're not so different. It's just that they want to be different, or they think that they don't owe us the respect to realize that you are coming from a town we are living in. You came from a town we live in. So they forget it. An incident. 3rd grade, Ross? 2nd grade. My youngest kid, we got called in because he touched somebody. I'm a father. I went, oh my God, he grabbed a girl. I don't know what happened. I sat down humbly in front of the teacher. Her name was Caballero. What was it? It's an Italian name, married another Italian person. Just keep that in mind. I sat there humbly, I listened to the teacher. The teacher actually told me that my son went to a child that was crying and went, are you okay? My wife went. She just looked at me because she knew what was going to happen. I just went and I looked at her like, what's your last name? Like, do you know who you are? Did you forget who you are? Because I'm half Italian. We are the most touchy-feely people in the world. And you're going to come in here and I thought he groped somebody. Where did you get your diversity training? Where are you from? Who's your grandfather? Like, my wife says, go outside. So I had to go outside, calm myself down, and I waited for her to come outside. Mind it, the principal is a Portuguese lady whose father was a mailman like me. I'm a mailman in Hartford, Washington Street. And when that came to her ears, I don't know what happened to that lady, but I know she was pregnant. I think she left early on her pregnancy leave. I didn't see her anymore. It's like, we are connected. We're no different than you. We're the same. It's just you. Some of you forget where your parents came from. We're no different.
I have a question. We, you, right? Those are the types of terms that we want to be inclusive.
Right.
We. But I think it's important for us to reach out to you from Hartford to invite you in and
Right.
a conversation and a meeting to open our school to you. Okay? And there's, I guess, my conundrum of I want to have a picnic on August 18th and invite all of my families in from Hartford and meet with them. I don't know that I can do that with 400 others. And so, is that going to be offensive that I only invited the families from Hartford in so I can begin?
No, as long as there's
That's
food.
the start. No, that's the
If there's
start.
food, I'll go. Because that's an addition to what we want. That's an enticement.
I I mean, it's a start. The whole thing is having conversation, having one-on-ones, and most importantly, showing them that you care. You want to open this up.
Yep.
First of all, with all relationships, it's the trust. We don't trust you. We look at y'all, and this is not me, okay? I have an adopted mom who's white, but this is the ideology behind them. We look at y'all and we say, these white people, they're just looking down at me. We automatically become defensive, even walking in, we are defensive. We are looking thinking, what are they gonna do? They're gonna call DCF on us? They're gonna, I yelled at my kid, oh God, these are the thoughts that we're always on guard, we're always defensive. The first thing with all relationships is opening the trust, getting us to trust you. Because at the end of the day, y'all not losing anything, we are. We are you have to keep in mind, we are sending our kids miles, sometimes as far as, what's the farthest district? Enfield.
On the north
miles
Enfield.
away,
Yeah.
and we're giving up our children, our prized possession. Yes, they're not possessed. Our pride and joy, we're sending them that far, and we're giving them to y'all. And we don't know what's going to happen to them. And now we have to think about all the other external, are they going to be discriminated on? Are they going to be treated wrong? Are people going to automatically think that they're bad because of their how they look? And for a lot of parents, some of these children really have not been socialized with anything other than Hartford students. So there's that component. I mean, they don't talk the same. They developed some sort of linguistic, some slang or whatever, and now they have to go into this, even at kindergarten, they've already developed some sort of language that now you have to break into, the language barriers. It's building trust, and you start that by just meeting with them, I guess, and just showing them that.
That's a good point. I just wanted to add, I was fortunate to have an awesome experience. Great relationships with the teachers, great relationship with the counselor, and I still to this day don't know how I became real close to this English teacher that I never had as a teacher, but she worked in the resource room and helped me with extra words to prepare for SAT, would proofread and I go to her regularly. The other black kids were like, you wouldn't catch me dead in a resource center. But I wasn't afraid to go for help because I knew what I wanted. But I think the caring part is really what's important, and to this day, I will never forget. We rode city buses in West Hartford up until high school, and then we had to take public transportation. But that first day of school, as we're getting off the bus and going down the hill, I see the principal walking up the hill to meet us. To me, that touched me so much that he was concerned, knew that we were taking the city bus, and then walked up the street himself to meet us, to almost apologize, I'm so sorry, and then walked with us back to the school. That left a long-lasting impression on me as showing that you care. And then just being concerned about students. And I'm going back to just supporting parents and some of the feedback that they have. One is also a big angst with a lot of the students is Black History Month week. I think as a high schooler, I'm like, is anyone doing anything with Black history to the staff? And they're like, no, do you want to do something? And before I know it, I'm sitting in a room with the social studies teachers. We ended up planning a whole week of activities. As a result of that, Hugh Blind paid for me. She said, why don't you ask if they'd support you to go to the nationals for Future Business Leaders of America? They paid for me to be able to go and compete on the national level there. So it's about asking questions. One of our districts, they started their students at 6th grade. And when I went to meet with the students, that was one of their biggest problems. They're not doing anything for, Black History Month. I said, well, would you do something for Yom Kippur? They were like, what's that? I'm like, that's my point. They are not going to do something if they're not comfortable with the knowledge because they don't want to offend. I said, there's nothing that principal wouldn't do for you if you take the initiative. And I assigned the 2 most vocal people. Why don't you make an appointment with the principal? Short story is that the principal left me a message. She was like, we ended up having a meeting, something about International Club or something. About 26 kids were there, district and Hartford. They ended up having a program for Black history. And I went to the school maybe the next week to bring a gift for the girls that initiated. And a student ran up to me and she's like, I love my school. And I'm seeing posters all around. I'm like, where did all this stuff come from? But teachers had them, but were afraid, probably didn't know what to do with it or didn't want to offend, but ask the questions. Get some of the students together and say, what would you all like to do? Because some of them are not going to be strong enough or secure enough or comfortable enough coming to the staff to do it. So I had a lot of support, but then I was probably a little bit more assertive than most students. But it's just that caring. And as I supported students as a liaison, you know, I asked some of them, does the person helping at the school or anywhere need to be black? And they were like, no. But it's just being concerned and showing care. They don't care the color, but it's just taking time to listen and try to understand that student. And for the parents too, you know, get to know the parents so that, you know, yes, you're mandated reporters, but if you have a relationship with the parent and kind of understand the background of what's going on, it could be just a matter of figuring out what resources might be available to help, because they get really angry when that's the first step that a school makes. But I do understand that that's a thin line, but again, it could have been easily resolved by just getting to know the parents and understanding what they're going through.
That happened to me.
What, calling DCF?
They called DCF on me because my daughter tried to pull up, if I don't get this grade right, my father's gonna hit me or punish me or something like that. Nobody called me, nobody told me anything, they didn't know me. I mean, I thought maybe 5 years of being in there as a Cub Master, the whole place would know me, but you know, my daughter was there, so my son already went to the upper classes. So I didn't go crazy on them that time. I had the reporter came to my house. I sat him down and I said, you know, why are you here? Because they check on you. And I was there and I says, well, you could check the house. The house is clean. You could go up there and check her room, whatever you have to do. And then the guy sat down and he said, you know, do you punish your daughter or your children? Says, yes, I would whip them. Next time they do something like this, I'm gonna kick their butt. So are you gonna take my kids? Take them now. You know, you have to be defiant against them, because there's no rule that says you can't chastise your child. The rule is you can't leave him with a big bruise or a cut. And as a Latino father, you're gonna get patted in the behind if you do wrong. So she learned that not to mess with me. The school learned not to do that again, just to call us. Just give me a call. Every time I talked to the teachers in their the meet and greet, I give them my phone number. All you have to do is tell them you're gonna call your father, and they'll stop. Never had a problem with them.
I did report last year that West Hartford was one of the only school districts that didn't have a bus. Yes, I saw some faces still. They actually do now. After a lot of fighting, and even one student got involved in the process, beginning the process, there was actually an incident that almost had transpired that caused the powers that be to realize, whoa, wait, we kind of need a bus. And these parents are, So I'm glad to report that West Hartford now has
since
school
last
buses.
year, right?
Since this year.
Is this year? I thought it was 2 years ago.
I thought it was
No.
2 years.
A year.
This year.
This year?
It was this year. The incident happened in the beginning of the school year. Yes. So I fought really hard for that since my son was in freshman year. So
How are the kids getting to school on the city bus?
they were the last school district
Park
to be on
Street
city bus.
right? The Park Street.
No, well, whatever, because mine is New Britain
Newington
Avenue.
also. Newington,
Newington.
Farmington, and West Hartford.
Yeah. So they're now taking a yellow bus.
Yellow bus.
It's a stereotypical school bus.
Real school bus.
So a question that was asked over and over is, what can we do to create a better relationship and build trust? So many educators asked that. I had like 6 or 7 little check marks next to it.
Well,
So what can,
he said it. The gentleman there in the center.
what do you say?
The picnic, that's one way.
So that's one example of what you can do to establish trust.
Phone calls. We really got to get back to a little more personable phone calls and even cards, letters sent home. One thing I like about West Hartford, and I will say this, Duffy is amazing at this. Every single year, in the beginning of, before the school year starts, we get a letter from the principal. And we get a letter and this is to all students. This is not just isolated to, but it's just part of that getting to know. It could be personal to like CREC students to let them know, like, in addition to these services, whatever you need, I'm available. But we get a letter from that, and we also get a letter from the teacher introducing themselves, saying, I am such and such, and this is, and I like for the kids. They have one for the parents and one for the kids, where the mom, if the kids don't read, obviously we read it to them. If the kids are reading, that's a great way to get them ready for school. And it says, my name is Mrs. Allen. I have a dog. I have this. I have like something to, because it's also the kids, getting the kids to open up, getting the kids to realize that. And this is really, really important for children coming in to the school districts, especially when they're not coming in kindergarten. If they're coming in at second, third, fourth grade, whatever it is, because they have not been integrated into the system. They'll be cliques. It's really cliquey, especially West Hartford. They're very, very cliquey. And a student trying to come in and you're gonna feel different. You're gonna feel, and the parents as well. So it's and phone calls. Like, I don't understand, what is the point? Like, I get emails are easy, but for these students, first of all, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of times, Roz will tell you, my email will sit there for 2 or 3 days, and then I'll get back to her, be like, oh, sorry, Roz, I da-da-da-da-da-da, but I mean, a phone call, if there's something precedent, or if you want to get to know people, like, call them up. These are parents that are, like I said, single parents. They don't have time to be emailing back and forth. They already have to probably do it for their work. A phone call to say, hello, Miss Cruz, I am, and I really would like to get to know you, or I just wanted to have a conversation with you about how I can help transition your child in. And then I'm going to give you ideas. I'm going to say, well, Josias likes dinosaurs, or Josias likes this, like bringing up, they found out that he liked, and they gave him a Duffy Dragon, like, oh, here, a Duffy Dragon for you, and here's a shirt for you. Oh, they feel special. And then for me, just getting to know me as a person, a phone call really makes a big deal. I don't understand what's the problem. I get people are busy, right? But even before the school year starts, when things take a 1 hour a day, and you call a couple of parents and say, I just want to connect with you. I want to have a one-on-one with you. I got invited to the school because I was super scared that my youngest he's very introverted. He's not like the other two. And yet I knew that my other two were extroverted, yet they struggled. So for him, I was even extra scared. I was afraid that he was going to get lost in the shuffle. And what the principal said to me in kindergarten, she said, come in. Let's have a walkthrough. Bring Josias. Let's walk through. Let's talk to. She set up a one-on-one with me, her, and the teacher to talk to us, bring us through the whole facility and everything. Like, makes a big deal. Takes an extra half an hour, but the payment that you get off of that one half an hour is phenomenal for the future.
Because the current parents get really upset only calling when it's something bad happening. You only call when there's, something. So I think just that reaching out and really getting to know, and I know it's a lot of families, but maybe starting this year with the new one. Some of the districts only do a handful of new seats. Maybe one-on-one, getting to know those particular parents. What are your expectations for the districts? What are your fears? I think that might be a great step to starting off with the new families this year. But if your size allows you to check in with all of the parents, I think that would be helpful.
To her point, I'm going to explain why that's so important. My son he eventually got diagnosed with ADHD, but before children are 7 years old, they're not really able to be diagnosed. So he started first grade. He had a really hard time, and I didn't want meds. So I postponed it. At about third grade, I finally decided to go and try this out, because one time I remember him coming to me and I would say, why am I always getting phone calls? Like every week or every other week, I just get phone calls from the principal saying about what terrible things he's doing. And I'm like, I'm so like, woosah. So I finally decided to send him to the doctor and put him on medication. Now, let me tell you that the trust and the relationship between the principal and I had already deteriorated, because me, as a person, I had said, well, why does this person keep calling just when my son's doing bad? Like, why can't I just get a phone call? And I was in tears. And I can get a little emotional, because I was in tears because I'm a single parent, and I was just like, I can't do this by myself anymore. Like, I don't understand why I can't get one phone call to say, Maria, he's doing a great job today. Like, I'm really impressed. Or he's been doing great for a week, or some sort of like system to give him to, like, it's that whole concept of positive reinforcement, right? So I remember, so at this point, long story short, our relationship had already deteriorated, and I didn't tell her that I put my son on meds. First, beginning of the school year happened over the summer. We started him for the school year. Do you know my son didn't get one phone call? He didn't get called down. It was about October, hitting into November, right around Thanksgiving. And I got a phone call from her talking about, and it happened to be a day that he didn't take his meds. So, but she didn't know. And she called me up and she said to me, I said, you know what? I'm kind of tired of you calling me. I said, you didn't call me for 2.5 months to tell me about how amazing my son was doing, to acknowledge, even send a letter home saying about how great he was. But the minute he does, I said, just so you know, my son was on meds. And he happened to miss his meds today. That was the problem. She was like, oh, well, why didn't you tell me? I said, because the teachers know. That's all I needed to know. And that's who I have the relationship with, the teachers. And she was like, I said, because all you've done is negative reinforcement. And one thing that I do not like is, and be cognizant of this, is do not throw your PhDs or you are this in front of me. Because I was working on my bachelor's and she happened to be a PhD in child psychology. And I said to her, because do you know what? You're a PhD in child psychology, and do you know that you're supposed to use positive reinforcement for children, not negative? And all you're doing right now is just reminding him of all the bad things he does, instead of acknowledging all the good things he did. I shut her down for a minute. And I said, and there's so many things in the school, I said, I prefer to just stick with the teacher because the teacher has a good relationship with me and she wants to help my son. So just, like she said, you have to build that trust, and you have to, don't just call me when my kid is doing bad. Call me when they're doing good too, especially if it's a troubled kid, because they want to hear that. They want to hear. And what I did, I said to him, you've been doing amazing. When he went to Sedgwick, that relationship was already destroyed. My son was already leaving that school year. This happened for 3 years. He was already leaving, and I was like, you know what? And I came with that same mentality into Sedgwick, and it took for the principal, the VP at that middle school to say to me, I'm not that person, and I want to build this with you, and how can we? And rebuilding that. And calling me and realizing that I was a single parent, and he wanted a male structure, and he would even do one-on-ones with him and play basketball for lunch with Marcos. So I mean, it's beyond that. It's taking a second and saying, there are students that sometimes gravitate towards a certain teacher, or gravitate, for a lot of us who are single moms, they need a male figure coming up and saying, how can I help you? And let me do some one-on-ones with you. Let me have ice cream with you. Let me.
That's deep.
So, someone asked, our district is predominantly white. What do you think the school's staff, administrators, and teachers need to know about your child's life experiences before he or she starts school in our district?
I think the same stuff. I think you should know whether there's a single parent. I think you should know the geographic, the demographic information about a child. I think that not to alienate them more, not to but just so you understand their background. If they're a single parent, obviously the parent's not going to be as much available. They're not going to be on top of all of their emails. They're not going to be, all the time being able to just drop and go to all the events or volunteer, things like that. Knowing, what they're, a lot of the times, maybe some of them are in foster care, or, maybe some of them have had domestic violence. Maybe some of them have had, that's important. That's important for you to know about children, to know whether there's an issue at home, and not trying to get it from them because it's touchy, because then they're going to feel like you're going to report their parents and things like that, but more to help the family. Like Renita said, help the family. These are dynamics, everybody has different dynamics.
But
Ditto. But I remember a couple of years ago, a teacher of the year spoke at one of our Dine and Discuss, and she was amazing, but it was building a relationship with every single child, even visiting the children at their home, getting to know any issues that were, so that she could treat them in a way that they would be supportive. So again, we can't get around that, building the relationship and really getting to know the students and the parents, because it is challenging for some of the parents. But then you have others where they get offended if you assume that they need a free turkey, because they have a single home, in a nice neighborhood. So just don't make assumptions. Get to know everyone and ask questions instead of just assuming, because that really upsets them too. Who do they think I am? I don't need a free reduced lunch form, but let them know. No, everyone at the school gets this form. You know, they think you're singling them out. Like she said before, they're defensive already because of, you know, history and everything else in regards to the majority population. So that time and individuality is just really crucial.
In my experience, I didn't come with a racist card. And I will tell you, don't come with the white guilt. Because I can smell it. I lived through too many discriminations even among my own people. I'm a mailman in Hartford. I deliver a certain area. What's the first thing you hear with the Latinos? Oh, another cracker. And I'm like, so don't come with the preconception that we have Hispanic guilt. I don't know how to say. Don't just talk to us like normal. These are your kids, and I am your family. Just think about it that way. And if I get offensive, thinking the way you said that, oh, I don't need a free turkey. This just stop us. Just hold on. I'm not here to talk about racism or whatever. I'm here to talk about you. That'll throw me back. Like, an idea is like, as a mailman, if I see a dog coming at me, I don't run. Because if I run, they're gonna love me. So when we bark, we're not biting. We're complaining. Just meet us. Meet us halfway. Go, no, wait a minute. What is it that you need?
Question?
Can you tell me what you mean? Like, what kinds of things do you notice that people doing that leave, like that white guilt thing?
Right. The thing, like, coming at us like this.
Like, kind of.
Sitting down with that teacher, literally I see her like going, she sat down like that, but at first I'm like, maybe he did something bad. So I humble myself. Thinking that a lot of teachers, especially families in Glastonbury, there was this one lady that actually said to us that she didn't want our kids and her kids in the summer, what was that, Voyager program? Nature's Classroom. The lady asked the teachers, are those kids going to be there? And the teacher, and I was looking at the teacher. I didn't care what the parents said. I'm looking at the teacher. The teacher goes, what? I was like, yes. That's what I wanted her to bark back at that. So yeah, we're going to bark. Meet us halfway. Say, no, this is not what I'm here for. Don't be afraid to tell that kid, no matter what color he is, be a gentleman. Be a lady. Stop. My wife does it a lot, but she can get away with it. And the kids are like, oh my God, he's cool. Or she's cool. She gets me because she stopped me and said, no, I love you. I want you to be my child. You know?
And I
My
think
student.
some of the staff are, I don't know if they're fearful or what, but when he was talking about how he talked about, yeah, I'm going to kick him in his butt, blah, blah, blah. That's how blacks and Hispanics talk. So sometimes when I'm going to school and I see a principal saying, now, Joseph, why did, and I'm like, oh. They think you're playing with them. They don't take that serious.
Yeah,
the staff that I see that have great relationships with the open choice students are the ones that can be firm. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
But again, you have to build a relationship somewhat. But that's how we talk. And so anything less than that is they don't take you serious. You know? So don't be afraid to be firm or to be...
Is that pandering? Is that pandering?
But it has to be genuine and honest when it comes to parents too.
No.
Just say,
Right.
come on, I want to get to know you. You know, how can we do this? But, you know,
I can't stand
we
that.
don't even know. It's like, what? We're like, boy, if you don't sit your butt down.
I'm going to take my shoe.
I mean, but that comes to the point of what we say, like even like what he said to his son. I'll tell my son, and I'll be on the phone with him and say, your grades, Marcos, power school, you gonna get it. That don't mean I'm gonna hit him. That don't mean that he just knows he's gonna get it. Like, your grades are top priority. minority in whatever it is. And so the language is different. So like you might hear, like a lot of times I'll even say to my son, because I really don't, you know, I work for the city, I can't afford this. So I'll say, are you around anyone? No? Okay, go down the hall for a second. Say, Marcos, if you don't, you gonna get it. Because he needs to understand that this, you know, the way that, just culturally, the way we talk to our children is just very different from a white family. I mean, this is serious though. To my point, I'll go say to a supermarket and I'll see a white mother talking to her child, and her child's having a temper tantrum and trying to touch things or throwing things. Not me, Marcos. You better get your butt off that floor right now. Or you know, just it's very different the way we talk to our children, and it doesn't mean that 95% of us are gonna beat our kids. They know. You know, it's a cultural thing. It's, you know,
that has been forgotten. Firm. That has been forgotten by a lot of the. See, I don't like to say it, the so-called white. I really hate that word. I hate the word racism because there's only one race, is the human race. But it has been forgotten by a lot of the people around the suburbs because look at where they come from. Their grandparents were the ones that told their parents, "I'm going to kick your butt," but then their parents didn't tell the time out. I'm gonna knock you out. I'm gonna knock you out. There's no time out. I learned that stuff in Glastonbury. I was like, I don't know what time out is. I says, Mommy, what's time out? I don't know, but I'm gonna hit you with my chancleta.
Big old chancleta.
Yeah, what do you call it in English? Slipper. Like those words is like. That's why I call it pandering. What's wrong with you? Just do that. My mom just look at my kids and they're like, oh no. Is a be firm with them. Don't remember.
So,
go ahead.
You had a question?
I would say, yeah, that feedback is great, and absolutely spot on in terms of understanding the parents' perspective on this. I think the dilemma would be for us as educators to treat children of color different than I'm from Simsbury, and I'm not talking to somebody who's a white child that way without probably being, you know, sent down the river. So, and I think
I'm sorry about that.
One of the things that we hear from some of our open choice students is they feel like teachers are targeting them and looking at them under a microscope more. So I'm already sensitive to that, and then trying to figure out. So I guess what I'm hearing, I'm going to read between the lines. Have one conversation in front of their peers one way, and have another conversation with them behind closed doors. So we really need to
Exactly.
The road.
Exactly.
Because the worst thing to do is to call them out in front of their peers. Because then they get defensive. Because then when I have to go to school, they're like, I don't know why I got suspended for taking the pencil or whatever. I'm like, no, you didn't get suspended for the pencil. You got suspended for your big mouth. They told you to go over, but they kind of called them and they pushed back, and then it became a back and forth thing. I'm like, no.
Look at them.
You can't embarrass them in front of their friends, but in closed doors, then it's like, what's going on? I'm trying to help you here. You know, work with me. How can we get to that's how you need to address them.
You have to understand that when these children coming from Hartford, their culture and their environment's different. So the way they have to be around their peers in Hartford, it's like they have two selves. They have to be this chameleon. So they have this rough exterior because, you know, a lot of them have been walking, talking by themselves, walking around the streets, doing what they have to do to survive, for survival, trying to keep themselves away from drugs and violence and all that, but at the same time making sure that they don't look like the punks, you know, like the people that, you know, and so they have this persona, like it's for you to embarrass them, it's like you're taking their card away from them. You're taking their respect card, like, whoa. So you're gonna get lashed out. And in fact, you're gonna get lashed out, and they're gonna close down to you, and they're never gonna trust you again because you insulted them, you made them look bad in front of their peers. So yes, private, to speak to them the way you would speak to any other student in front of other students. One thing I want to reiterate is never change who you are. If you are just a pandering type of person, then I mean, I don't want to say you have to change who you are. That's just, it becomes a problem when you act different towards that child. Then they start feeling singled out. When they start feeling like, well, you talk to Susie from West Hartford, really nice and everything, and then you talk to me and you give me this attitude. Whoa. And again, this is perception, but remember, they're already defensive. So everything you do and say is going to be defensive. But making sure that when you're around their peers, you are talking to them the way you would talk to their peers. And then yes, bringing them into the room and saying, you know what, your mom told me specifically that you should da 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 da. And if I need to call your mom, I will call your mom. And then you can get a little like rough and firm with them around. But the environmental, them being two people, these children have to be two people. My son had to take a school bus since freshman year. And I would say to him, why do you look so mean when you're walking through the streets? Like he would put this face, and it's because he almost got jumped a couple times for his shoes and stuff like that. Like, these are things that go through our kids' mind. Like when they're walking out of that school, now they have to go into, the environment hasn't changed that they come back to, that they sleep in. It has not changed. They're going back to the same environments. They were sheltered in West Hartford, and then they have to come back out and be that rough, tough person, you know? And so it's different.
And if I, oh, go ahead.
But actually, we have about 5 minutes left, and I'd rather not continue with questions on paper, but open it up.
Yeah, I have a question. So I teach high school, so this would be for older students. But if a student from Hartford came to school, first day of school, and I'm their teacher, what are the top 2 or top 3 concerns? I mean, high school I think would probably be, I got to fit in with my peers. I don't really care about you teaching too much. And is it, grades or, the broad general student concerns, of course, are there, but the kids that are coming into and seeing me as their teacher, what, high school and kindergarten, I mean.
The first thing is,
Doesn't matter.
what you just did, I just went, oh my God. Don't do that.
Well, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but you did it to us. We're the parents.
Well, because I want to ask you,
No,
but I don't do the wrong thing.
but you just did what I said is, don't say, oh, I'm the white teacher. You didn't say white, but you went. That to me is, you say, I'm the white teacher, and look at these black kids, look at these Latino kids. No, I'm the teacher. What do I need from you?
I disagree.
Get to know me.
I disagree. I think that especially because of our sensitivity with current administration, I'll just say that, you can't not identify race. You have to acknowledge who I am. It's just being tactful of how you do it. You can't not say that just because she's white, she shouldn't be able to say and that I'm Puerto Rican or that she's black.
You have to, because then that's not to identify the person. And, why should I identify
acknowledge
you as
that
black?
the person is you're not vocal, like saying it to the whole world, and not to isolate people that way, but not to, she has to acknowledge that she's white and that this student is going to be coming from a different background.
I'm thinking more with the Dante, because I didn't like being singled out any differently than anyone else. Treat me with respect. Check in with me like you would anyone else. I don't want to be stand out. I didn't want to be on any affirmative action committees. I did finally at college, but I just didn't want to be identified as anything different. But like to Maria's point, you do have to realize that there is a difference.
Right.
So as you're getting to know the students as you would anyone else, to just say, you know what, you might want to acknowledge, I know you you come from Hartford. How is that, coming so far? Anything I can do to support you with that? If you notice a problem with homework, especially for the older ones, what might be some of the challenges with that? Because some of these kids have to go home and take care of younger kids. I had to rush and try to do all my homework on the bus. I was on track team, I was in the choir, in that international club, so that bus time for me was crucial in study hall, because I knew when I went home, there's church at night, helping with dinner. I was the oldest of 4 siblings. So a lot of the older students have other responsibilities if they are the oldest. So there's a lot of things, challenging with their times, to just ask, so I kind of agree with both.
I'm agreeing with you. I think not to say that I'm white and but to be cognizant of that, and when you're talking to the student,
Get to know them.
Have that in the back of your mind and be open because that conversation might come out. The student might say, well, I'm black. well, I'm Puerto Rican and I don't speak English like that. Or, well, I'm Puerto Rican and I, have some issues with school food or something. Like, and they might say it, and at that point you have to put yourself, so you can't shut it down. That's what I mean.
Right.
Since you can't say, oh, but you have to be able to respond back through your own perception and by being able to try to put yourself in their shoes and say, okay, I have white privilege, and being conscious that you have white privilege and understanding so that you can ultimately be able to tap into the way the student will feel. You can only understand them, you can only help them if you understand them and understand where they're coming from.
I'm sorry, but I don't believe in that.
And everyone's
I don't believe in white
experience is
privilege. Because, like I said, people come from, most of you are from families from immigrants. So what's your privilege?
Yes, but they don't, just an example, they don't have to go in the store and worry about someone following them
Exactly.
around. They don't have to.
And
I
I
don't
guess
have
I can
Well, you're
say this
closer to white
very
than black.
Yeah, but
right.
that's discrimination.
Exactly.
Right.
So just so that you understand exactly to what Renita, we are dark skinned.
Right.
We can't walk into.
Then you're discriminating
And-
against me.
No, you have the privilege.
Then you're discriminating against me. You just said it.
No, I mean we can
Did
agree.
you
to
see what I'm
disagree.
saying? Don't point me out because I'm white.
No, we're just saying.
No, you're fair
Our
skinned.
background is because.
It's about
we're-
skin
And my
color.
license is white. What it says on your license? Black? Or it says white?
Says Latina.
A very common thing that was promoted during the 80s and 90s was, and it was said often in schools as well as elsewhere, is I don't see color. And when people say to me, I don't see color, I say, I hope you really are literally blind. If you don't see color, you are not seeing the life experience of that brown or black child who walks in that skin and is treated differently as a result of the color of their skin. Race, no doubt, is a social construct. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact is, we all live very different realities because of the hue of our skin. So none of us can afford to be colorblind.
So just for an example, my son goes to West Hartford, and I had to have a conversation with him, especially now he is fully licensed. I gave him a car, and I had to explain to my 16-and-a-half-year-old son, and I've been doing this since freshman year, and more so in the last couple of years because of the racial tension. But I had to tell my 16-and-a-half-year-old son to look into the mirror every morning, to remind himself of what he looks like externally, because although my son has built this this resiliency about him that he sort of say it as a joke to Roz. He says, I'm a Puerto Rican Oreo. I'm Puerto Rican, I look black on the outside, but on the inside, I'm white because he talks white, white, proper. He talks proper, this is what I talk about a chameleon, because I dub it as a marginalized minority where I feel, and I've had to deal with this, where in Hartford, with my own peers, I go around them and I'm too educated for them. I look like them, but I don't sound like them. And then I go into suburbia or into my academia side of it or my job, and I don't look like them, but I sound like them, right? And so my son has dubbed the Puerto Rican Oreo. So I have to remind him and I have to tell him, look into the mirror every single day, look at what you look like, and remember that as you're driving. Because if you get stopped, you need to be conscious of what is going to be the stereotypes that people have of you. And stop. First off, you never be disrespectful, but you let them know that you know your rights. Okay? You give them your license, your right. Like, this is what we talk about. Like, I have to do that sometimes where I have to remind myself in that mirror. And if you have to go to the mirror and you have to say to yourself every day and remind yourself, check yourself. I have to put my mask on because I'm going out into the world and what I look like is not ideal for what society and the way they're going to treat me. Then that is white privilege.
I remember at 9th grade, that's when color became prominent to me, because I think I got more flack from the black kids because of me choosing, or because I talked proper. So people say, oh, you're white, you're white. And when we say Oreo, that means that they're black on the outside, but they act white. and that's not a compliment in the Black
But
community.
he's accepted it,
Right.
which is sad.
So I struggled in 9th grade with, well, what does it mean to be Black? I don't know why are they upset with me? Because all my kids, there were no Black kids in my class, and in the 1 year that I did have maybe 3, I was like, yes! Then I was moved, and found out that a teacher saw me and passed by, saw me and didn't think that that was an appropriate class for me. It took me a while to appreciate the decision that she made, but I struggled with that. And then I had to figure out what it was that I wanted, and I knew that I want to be successful in corporate America. And it's not white, it's called proper English.
Right.
And I
The right
couldn't,
way.
when she brought up the comment about, the different communities, it's like being bicultural. Because and I couldn't do that back and forth thing. So that's why sometimes they were like, well, why all the Black kids hang together? And in college, I was a resident advisor for the 3 years there, and I was just, I would want to sit with the Black students because you don't see each other that often. But then I felt conscious that, the majority of the kids on my floor are white, so I need to break it up a little bit. But I don't have to worry about how I talk when I'm around the Black students. You can talk slang, so what, you don't conjugate your words, the sentences properly, but then I feel subconscious that I have to do everything proper and correctly when I'm in the majority population. That's a struggle. That's a burden to have to balance all of that. People feel more relaxed, so, don't chastise the kids because they're all together. They share, you don't ask why all the jocks are together or why all the preps are together. That's a clique, a group. But it's bicultural, and to be successful, you kind of have to walk that fine line. When you're home, then you can let your hair down, but you recognize, I think you were talking about code switching,
Yeah.
that your conduct changed depending on the environment and the situation that you're in. But I struggled with that for several months in 9th grade until I figured out what I wanted, then that grounded me. And then it didn't matter what my friends said.
Right.
But you have to remember that that's that conflict even amongst ourselves. Trying to be an A student, trying to be proper, and then people ridiculing and teasing you for that. So that's a constant challenge.
And on that note, lunch is here.
That was my son.
Can we?
My son said to me the other day, my bad. I said,
Pressing question. Otherwise, we have 30 minutes to
This isn't
relax,
for us,
have
is
some
it?
lunch.
It's food for us.
And we
back
can
to
stay
work
if
for
they
the
have.
afternoon?
We can stay around if they have questions that they want to.
yeah, me
Yeah.
Is that for, can we eat?
Stay for lunch, and if you'd like to approach any of them,
I'm hungry.
too. Marco said, my bad. I was like,